Defenses are going to be center stage in this one, especially the linebackers. I have an interesting note about one of the linebackers in this game. Florida's Jim Bates. His dad's a former defensive coordinator at Tennessee. So you know Jim Bates, son of a defensive assistant coach, is now in the NFL. Well, the Jim Bates who plays for the Gators, he is a student of the game.
We've watched miles of tape. I mean, I've got so many movies at home, and I stick a movie in. Let's just say this: I've watched Nebraska more times than I've watched Tommy Boy these past few weeks, and that's a lot. And by the way, if anybody here can get word to Chris Farley, who I read in the paper the other day, that wants to come to the Fiesta Bowl, you tell him that he can sit on my spot on the bench. When I come off the field, I'll just stand there and look at him because he's firing me up.
Well, we know Chris Farley won't be here, but Chris Elliott will be at the game. Now, Jim Bates is talking about a Farley. If we're talking about linebackers in this game, the name Farley should come up as well, Lee.
Yeah, Nebraska's finest linebacker is Terrell Farley. He's a strong safety size. He's only 6 foot, 200 pounds, but I'll tell you what, he's a great athlete, and he can really run. Now, Terrell is a junior college graduate. He also went to make the second-team All-American time this year. And remember, Craig, one thing about Terrell Farley that I like also is that his ability to catch the football. Look, he runs like a strong safety, looks like a terrific athlete. But also remember one thing, the guy blocked 2 punts this year, so he's dangerous there.
Yeah, you pointed him out early when he first got to Nebraska. Plus, I was talking to the Florida players, and some of those guys said in high school they used to cover Jaquez Green. That's how fast Farley is. When you talk about linebackers now, Florida has their group too. They've been talking about their defensive line getting a lot better. They must be getting better because those linebackers have become active. They've been active all season. They're making a lot of plays. Ben Hanks is one of their players on their side of the ball who can absolutely get around the football field. He's been doing it for a long time. He's a senior. He's the kind of player that you need when it comes to big-time games. He's always around the ball in big games. He's got to maintain discipline on the outside, though, when it comes to the option. Another guy on the inside that really helps him out is Dexter Daniels, number 48. This is a guy that can get all over the field, especially in the backfield when it comes to getting to sacks and tackles behind the line of scrimmage. I think it's important to realize that when you're talking about seniors in a big game and linebackers against a great Nebraska offense, you got to have those.
Now, Bates, who we heard earlier talking about Chris Farley, did tell me this morning, hey, option football is assignment football. As a linebacker, you want to go right after the ball, but you've got to have that aggressiveness funneled towards your assignment, not the ball all the time.
Yes.
Little mindset change for Florida to focus on the secondary. And for the Nebraska secondary, they will face the Florida receivers who will give them different looks.
They got a lot of different mixtures that they can throw at you. So I think that's the difficult part about it. You really have to recognize the personnel that's coming to your side. You really have to recognize the guy that you're going against and what you've seen him do on film, the way he run his routes.
I don't know how necessary it is to know, the people that are back there. We put a lot of our emphasis on, what they're trying to do as far as schemes go, rather than, who's back there and what their, particular skills are.
In those different looks, you get the speed, you get Doring, a very good route runner who's big. So for the Nebraska defensive backs, they'll have to really be focused on which guy's coming at them.
Absolutely. In Florida, they really could care less who's in the secondary. But for Nebraska's secondary, they've got a humongous task. If they don't play well, Nebraska has no shot at all at winning the national championship. But they have a lot of experience in the back there. Michael Booker, a corner. He's one of the guys that has athletic ability. Tyrone Williams, you just heard from him. Look at the reception there. It shows his athletic ability. But you got to be able to hit if you're playing in the secondary against a team like Florida. Mike Mentor, big-time hit there. Tony Veland plays free safety. Tony's the guy that used to be a quarterback, so he can play center field and help make some big-time plays for those guys. The key for their secondary is to not let anybody behind them. They got to keep everybody out front, make sure they don't give up the 30 and 40-yard gains, because Florida will lull you to sleep. They'll sucker punch, and all of a sudden they've got 6.
Forget all that pass defense when it comes to Florida secondary. They got to support against the run. They got an inside-out support with a strong safety named Lawrence Wright, and this is what they'll do. Florida will come out, Craig, watch them. They'll get the end, boom, they'll put it in Fraser's face, boom, he'll pitch it, they'll run it down on grass. That's the way they're going to stop the Nebraska option.
If you forget about Nebraska's secondary, this score will be 100-0 out there. But I'll tell you what, when you stop the option, go ahead and just take Tommy Frazier out of the equation, stop him, make Phillips and Amon Green beat you.
I think nationally people doubted Nebraska's secondary before, but just think back to the Florida State game. What a gutty game that then young secondary played. Keep that in mind as they match up again.
Steve Cyphers found a couple of coaches weary of all the buildup.
I guess glad to see you, primarily because it's the last time that I may see you during this week.
The first day of 1996 meant the last pregame press conference. First, Tom Osborne, followed by Steve Spurrier. A photo op sandwiched in between. Topics addressed included the payment of college athletes, Osborne's off-the-field turmoil, and Spurrier's distinct personality. There was talk of football, too, about the grass surface on which Nebraska hasn't played a game all year.
We practice on it. We've scrimmaged on it, and so it's not any great concern to us, really, what type of surface. I would have to say that it shouldn't be any great advantage to either team.
We are happy that the game is on natural grass. They play 11 on AstroTurf. We play 11 on natural grass. So we got to feel like the surface is a little bit to our advantage.
Impression of the tiebreaker, I think, is good. I don't think a game like this should end up in a tie, and so I think the concept's good, and I certainly can't argue with the format.
I wish we had it in regular season. I think it'd be a super idea to have a winner and a loser every game.
Ever since this matchup was set, discussion is centered on the different but equally potent offenses which are run by the head coaches. And while Osborne talked about keeping an open mind,
I don't ever go into a game with a preconceived idea as to what's going to work. We have to see how they're playing us during the ball game.
Spurrier talked about the birth of his wide-open attack coming in 1980 when he was an offensive coordinator at not-so-powerful Duke.
We couldn't call a bad play and say, well, I called a bad play, don't worry about it. Because when the defense ran out there, it'd be 7 or 8 minutes before your offensive guys got to go back out.
The Players' Day is one of meetings, followed by scheduled walkthroughs at Sun Devil Stadium. After that, Florida will see the movie Sudden Death. Both teams have an 11 o'clock curfew. And then it's one long day of waiting around for tomorrow night's kickoff. Chris?
Steve, thank you. Do you like stats? Are you hungry for one more? Here's one. At the final press conference, Tom Osborne out-talked Steve Spurrier by 4 minutes. It was a scintillating hour, I can promise you. A heck of a way for all those writers to nurse their New Year's morning hangovers. Of course, you want to have the longer press conference after the game. That's usually the key. Some more meaningful numbers involve both kickers, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of hangovers, you know, I can't think of many coaches in America that would want to enter a national championship type game, excuse me, Chris, without having a great kicking game. Imagine this. Here's the tail of the tape. Chris Brown, a true freshman, sets a single-season record, 81% on his. Now, Edmiston's not quite the same guy, especially in the 30-yard range. This is where most kicks occur. 7 of 9 for Brown, 3 of 9 for Bart. This is going to come down to a game, in my opinion, where Chris Brown has the opportunity to win the game, because if Florida has the ball, I think they can run away with it. I don't think that Nebraska can run away with it. They'll have to depend on Brown to kick a game winner at the end of the game.
Well, Florida's had a great season with their kicking games. They have blocked 7 kicks this year. They have blocked 3, 4 punts, and 2 field goals. Here's one of the blocked punts. Here's also what they can do. They can return kickoffs. Rydell Anthony will take this kickoff, and watch him as he starts to go up the middle, then he'll break it out to the right and fly. There he goes. They average over 23 yards a kick. They're an outstanding football team out there. One of the things that they have going for them, though, is Ron Zook, the special teams coach. He's crazy. They got this thing called the choo-choo. Watch this, Craig. Watch this guy, Dwayne Thomas. Is he cool or what?
You got him coached up, man. I know this for a fact. They'll play inspirationally now.
Man, that looks like me at the old ATO house in Florida State, man. I used to do that.
I heard a few Sunshine Scooter stories on you, too.
I'll tell you.
You know, Nebraska's got pretty good special teams. They can dance a little bit, too. Chris Brown never kicked a field goal in college off of natural grass. Even in high school, kicked mostly in artificial turf. Says it's not a problem. He's visualized kicking game-winning field goal 1,000,000 times.